incorporate a more wholesale accompaniment to yourself instead of just simply strumming. Okay, you're now going to incorporate a percussive effect when you're playing with the right or the left or the left. Okay, that's one chuck, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And what you can't see is that my forearm is actually, here I am going up, making a down strum, but I'm making sure that my forearm is touching the strings here around the bridge. Okay, so make sure that when you strum now, it does depend too, because there are some folks, you know, not some folks, every one of us is built differently, right? So what's more important is that you be able to strum here at the shoulder, okay? Here at the shoulder. Whether you use your index finger or all your fingers or your thumb, you always want to be able to strum here. That means that you have to be able to place your forearm in such a position or orientation that your fingers are delivered to this area. How do you do that? Well, for me, I don't have super long arms, but they're not super short either. So I'm using this here. You see how I can kind of use this as a fulcrum, right? So I am making sure that this angle of my finger is reached properly by positioning my forearm according to how I can deliver my fingers. Okay, so it's all integrated here. It's not just, you don't think just of your fingers, you think of how you're going to deliver those fingers to this position. Not just deliver the fingers, but consistently strum in a particular way that your arm is not flailing and causing your fingers to change position. Okay, so that also means that you've got to have control over your strum. If you're going to arch too much, then that means you have to bring your forearm a little further down, or the elbow a little further out this way, so that if you're going to use your right hand to mute, this part of your forearm is going to be able to touch the strings. Okay, typically all you need to do is just lightly touch them, just lightly touch them. Okay, and I've got a longish sleeve here too, so when I lift it up, I can feel it much better. Okay, so now I'm muting with my right hand, but this is what it sounds like with my right hand. Okay. And I'm using my forearm to deaden that movement. And if I do it faster, so you can hear it collapse, right? Try doing that. Try doing that. Just take your time. Do quarter beats, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and count it out so that you get accustomed to that feel. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then as you get more comfortable with it, of course, you're going to increase your speed. You want to be able to increase your speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you hear it's very staccato, right? That's what you want. Do you want to do it for every single one? Maybe, maybe not, but you ought to learn how to control this movement using quarter beats. Use your quarter beats. If we just count them out, and let's not do any kind of muting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now let's mute strum number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's mute strum number 2, beat number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So that's a kind of practice you ought to be incorporating with your strums, because this is what's going to develop your voice as you play a song. Let's do it for beat number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And let's do it for number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So that way you get used to kind of breaking things up, where your brain is, your voice, you start out with your voice. That's the easiest thing to do. And then you start counting it out until you reach the point where you know where beat 2 falls. You don't have to count it out. Because if you're counting it out, then you're probably not singing or playing, playing and singing at the same time as that you're counting out. So, but that is an exercise. It's a way to practice. I would never ever recommend to anybody that all you do is practice songs. You should, if you're going to focus only on that, because you're comfortable with your strums, that means you're listening to the song and you are already detecting where those accents are, right? You will know where the measures start. When you hear the measure start, where does the lyric begin, on what beat of that measure? So that's going to mimic, in a lot of ways, what you're going to be doing as you're playing, okay? Now, those are just the quarter beats, right? That's just quarter beats. We're going to expand on that a little bit more, but probably not until the third session that resumes back in May, okay? So let's look at let's revisit the left hand mute, okay? Now, when we talked about the C chord, typically with the C chord, you're using your third finger on the 3rd fret for this open C. And you're going to keep your fingers hovering over the neck. Very important to do that. I see a lot of folks just kind of tucking their fingers away underneath the ukulele. Do not do that. It's really a very bad habit to develop. Okay? Keep your fingers hovering, because this is recovery. This is a recovery of movement. The same way that the right hand recovers from an up or down strum. You have to get yourself back on time to strum the next strum, okay? So here's the left hand waiting to form the next chord, which also points out the need to look at your music, study the chords, know the chords in your head. And if you don't know the chords, then pull out your chord chart and get that chord down. Know what it looks like. Know what it looks like as a diagram, like how this is laid out as a diagram. Take a look at it. What does it look like when I look here at my fingers from the top down? What's the orientation of my fingers? Get to know that. A lot of folks have difficulty with a B flat. Okay? take a look at that B flat. Another reminder too, what I said before, like with a chord like a B flat, you should always push this little pinky out, okay? Because this muscle here helps to stabilize your hand. This is a very large muscle, okay? For the smallest finger on your hand, it has a very large muscle because it's very key to helping this ring finger here, okay? Very, very important. These two fingers are helped by the thumb, okay? So by sticking your pinky out, like you know how you do T, yeah? By doing that, you're actually stabilizing your hand so that you don't, you don't fail to bring the cup to your mouth and tip it over correctly, okay? So that's what this does here, okay? It also helps to strengthen, I think, everybody form a B flat. Everybody form a B flat. Get that pinky out. What do you notice? What do you notice about what's happening behind the ukulele? Where's the most tension that you feel? Is it in your hand or is it in this bicep? It's actually in the bicep. Okay, are you aware of that? Do you feel that? The force that your bicep has, is this energy that it keeps, is actually transferring to the thumb, which then helps to stabilize the fingers that are in the front. So be aware of that. This tension in the bicep also, by transferring to the thumb, also helps to strengthen this muscle. Okay? So if you don't have the muscle strength, this B flat is the perfect antidote to developing that strength. Okay? That's just life. Okay? We oftentimes disregard the importance of a pinky, but it's really quite important. You know, not as important as the thumb, obviously, but it's still very important for ukulele playing. It's very important. So typically what you're going to see whenever I'm playing chords, for most of them, my pinky is out there, okay? Because it's ready to move into position, and this hand is helped by this muscle and that muscle, okay? So very important. That's why you should be doing your stretching, you know, your flexing and your that kind of thing. You know, the grips, that all helps. It all helps. Okay, so with the left hand muting, okay, let's do B flat because that's probably rather demonstrative in terms of hand strength. Okay, so when you play that B flat and you keep the tension going, it just rings out. But if you release the tension but keep the form, right? You don't see my left hand moving very much. It stays in place because I want to minimize the amount of time and energy I need to recover from the releasing of that form. Okay, so let's try this. Let's do quarter beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Okay. Let's just do the mute on beat 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do it on 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do it on 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. sorry, missed it. I was looking at one of you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you hear how it rings out. This ringing out is called decay. Okay, the more fingers you got touching strings, the quicker the decay of a chord. Okay, if we listen to C, you hear how it's still going out? That frequency is still ringing out because we're not touching any strings. As soon as you contact that string, the contact causes the decay to accelerate. Okay? So listen for that. That's what muting is about. Okay? It's actually stopping the frequency from ringing out. You're stopping it. Okay? You're actually initiating a much faster decay than the normal frequency of the string. Okay. All right, so did everybody have a chance to go through this and play it? Did anybody else besides the folks that who emailed me, anybody listen to the video recordings or just the audio recordings and follow along with your sheet to see the chord name that was being played while you were listening? Anybody able to do that? Okay, so then you can hear those changes because that's very necessary. Why is it necessary? It's because we want to be able to hear those intervals, right? The distances between these chords. As I explained last week, when we look at the difference between verse 1 and verse 2, we see a modulation at the end of verse 2, where we move from and the F, right? What would have allowed us to continue playing in F would have been a C7. Instead, we moved to an E7. That allowed us to move to a new one or tonic or new key of A, because E7 is the 5 of A. So it created an opportunity to modulate from the key of F to an A. Yet the intervals for both keys are exactly the same. It's a 1, right? We took the F, we went to its 6, which is the D minor. We went to its 4, and then we go to its 5. And then we return to the 1. So 1, 6, 4, 5. 1, 6, 4, 5. 1, 6, 4, 5. Right? And we see that here when you look on this sheet. 1, 6, 4, 5. 1, 6, 4, 5. Okay? Then we modulate. We go up to that A. All right? So here we go again. 1, 6, 4, 5. 1, 6, 4, 5. What do we do? A, F sharp minor, D, E7. 1, 6, 4, 5. All right, so we're using the same intervals, the same distances or degrees from our tonic. Right? And then we make a second modulation. From the A, we're now going to move up to a C. And we do that by playing the 5 of the C, which is the G7. Same interval, right? C, A minor, F, G7. 1, 6, 4, 5. 1, 6, 4, 5. Back to the 1. Okay? And then to return us to the F, the key of F, which is where we started, all we did was we took the C, knowing what our target is F, right? Our target is F. We want to go now to F. Go back. So we just take the C major, and we bring it down to the C major dominant 7. Okay, C major dominant 7, or C7, to return us to an F. We're still playing the same intervals: 1, 6, 4, 5. 1, 6, 4, 5. Okay? I hope that makes sense to you. Okay? We don't come across too many songs that have this many modulations. If you want to hear a lot of modulations, I would suggest that, like I did last week, I would suggest that you listen to the Sunday Mano or the Casimiro brothers. Their live, a lot of times their live performances, even more than the recorded music that they did for their albums, in the live performances, they would do way more modulations. And that just, sometimes that would drive us crazy, you know, when a kumu would say, I want my girls to be dancing this song, here's the recording, you know, and we'd hear all these modulations, and these were not easy modulations. We could go from an F to a G sharp, okay, F to a G sharp. That means doing this F to a G sharp. That is not easy to do. And what you're going to hear a lot of times with the Casimiro brothers is that they're going to reach this D sharp 7. They're going to go in a roundabout way to get there. So they might make, just like how we did in 5'2", and just like in this, they'll stop on different 5s until they reach their destination 5. Okay, so if you want to hear what that sounds like, I would suggest listen to the Casimiro brothers, because they were really quite expert at doing this. Really ingenious how they took songs that were a lot of times they were very traditional Hawaiian songs, but just to change their flavor, to give you something a little more to bite into, they would do these modulations. Unfortunately, the one brother who played usually the 12-string, his name was Roland Casimiro. He's an absolute genius. And for me, I think he was more the sound of the Casimiro brothers, because he always sang in a falsetto, and that better defined their overall sound. But Roland was an absolute genius when it came to moving keys around. Okay? All right, so let's roll through this one more time. Okay? And let's do that chunk, okay? And it's just that relief. Yes. Yes.
I think I'm missing a sheet. What are you looking at?
Beyond the C.
Oh, it is beyond. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to run through this. Everybody got their sheets out, right? Right. Okay, so we're going to do that chunk, okay? But you're just going to do that real quick movement, right? Okay, let's do that. And just use this part, or use your right hand to relax, right? You hear how it's a lot clearer, right? It's a lot clearer. There's less of a muting sound when you use your left hand. it's a more definitive percussive sound when you mute with your right. Okay? That's because your forearm covers a lot more of the strings, deadens more strings than the left hand does. Okay? Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to count it out. 2, 3, 4, F, D minor. Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere beyond the sea, she's there watching for me. If I could fly like birds on high, then straight to her arms I'll go sailing. E7, such far beyond the moon. I'm sorry. Wait, hold on. It's far beyond the stars. It's near beyond the moon. And G7. I know beyond a doubt my heart will lead me there soon. C7. We'll meet beyond the shore. We'll kiss just as before. Happy we'll be beyond the sea, and never again I'll go sailing. Here's our little interlude and the instrumental. Ba-ba. Ba-dum, 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 ba. Da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da, E7, da-dum, ba-dum, 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 and C7, back to F. I know beyond a doubt my heart will lead me there soon. C7. Oh, we'll meet. That was my mistake. Beyond the shore, we'll kiss just as before. Happy we'll be beyond the sea, and never again we'll go sailing. No more sailing, bye-bye sailing. Move on out, Captain, so long, ensign. Okay? All right. We were actually using half beats, okay, just to nail down that chunk, okay? But does that make sense, doing this way? Because, you know, you're not ringing it out. That's what a lot of folks think strumming is about, just almost violently strumming instead of letting those strings rest a little, okay? That's going to give a lot more flavor to the way you play, a lot more flavor, okay? And when you're on your own and you are practicing those chunks, by varying what beat you're going to do this on. This is another thing too, with that chunk. Do a mute on 1 and 3. Then do a mute on 2 and 4. Okay? 1 and 3. Let's do F. Okay? Let's mute 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Do that. And then let's do 2 and 4. I think 2 and 4 might be more common. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So that's real different. Okay? And that was just the quarter beats. That's just the quarter beats. If you are comfortable with your quarter beats, then start moving into the eighth beats. That's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You see what I'm doing here too? When you start out, don't start out with chords. Get that feel in this left hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Okay, let's do a mute on 2, the down and upbeat of 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, I don't know if you noticed what I was doing. You heard the first set, I was doing an accent right on the first beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then I accented the 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? That way you get accustomed to changing up that beat. There's also, I covered with you last week, what kinds of strums, what's this finger doing? Okay, it's just lightly touching on the strings when I'm not accenting them, right? You can just do a quick pass over them. A lot of times this is what I would refer to as a short strum. A short strum. That's just simply strumming the 4 and 3 string. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Do that. That's very helpful, because what you want to do actually is you're going to train a number of different things when you do this kind of strumming. You train your wrist first of all, because remember your wrist is dependent on where your forearm brings this finger for strumming, right? So the wrist has to stay curved this way, okay? But where's the movement? The movement is not off of my elbow. The movement is off of the wrist. So I don't know how many of you have ever hitchhiked in your life. It's not very pleasant, not very safe, okay? But this is hitchhiking when you're doing this, okay? You're doing this. You're trying to get somebody's attention and you're wagging your hand off of your wrist, okay? If you strike if your mom or dad struck you in the hand, you would be doing this. You wouldn't be flailing around. I hope not. You wouldn't be doing that. Okay, but you would be doing this because you want this area here to get the attention, okay? So that's what your wrist is supposed to be doing. This is what's going to allow you to play for hours on end. If you do this, you're going to fatigue your arm, okay? Because this is now going to involve the deltoid, okay? This muscle here is what's needed to move your elbow up and down. There is no need for the deltoid to get involved when you're only moving your wrist. As you develop your speed, this is what a lot of the much better players than myself, the professionals, they'll do this all day. okay? That's just to develop their speed, okay? And you gotta be like me if you have delicate fingernails. I only have one delicate fingernail, it's on this index finger. So I have to keep it, put nail polish on it all the time, okay? But that's this movement here. And I use my index finger more often than I use my thumb, okay? I will use it, but if my thumb is in use, it's for a more of a combination type of a strum, okay? But you see how my thumb is sticking out? Okay, that helps my hand to stabilize as well. If I keep it tucked away, that's not very natural. Okay, so this is natural to get that movement. Keep the fingers tucked away, right? Keep the fingers tucked away, unless you're going to use them. Okay, that's a different training altogether. Okay, so just move them comfortably. Okay, and then that's a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Accent on 1, accent on 2. Okay, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And let's do the accent on 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's do it on 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? So just practice doing that. Because you want to reach the point where you don't even have to think about it. You're simply feeling your way through a song. Okay? And you know where to accent it. When you listen to the song, you're going to already hear it. You got to be able to tell your brain has to be able to tell your hand where you're going to be accenting, okay? You don't make your hand be in charge of your brain. That is not going to work for you. It's not going to make you a better player. You have your brain tell your digits what to do. You have your brain tell your hand where to go, how much force you're going to use. This, what we've been doing, where we're taking the accents, the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, or the 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are called dynamics, okay? It's one aspect of dynamics where you control how much, where these movements are going to be going up, undulations, I guess you could call them, okay? Where there's just a little bit more of an accent that's applying to a particular beat. Some folks have asked about reggae beats. And there's actually a lot of different kinds of reggae beats, lots of them. But the one that is most typical when we start out with playing reggae is actually the downbeat, okay? So with reggae, it's the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, I'm sorry. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? So that's why it's a little different when we hear it. And it's actually a mix of quarter beats and eighth beat. Okay, so we can mix those things up where we're using these quarter beats along with these eighth beats, and we're accenting the upbeat. And you notice too with reggae, there's a lot of muting that's happening because you don't want the sound to ring out. This is what it would sound like if you didn't mute it. Okay, versus okay, and you hear how I'm doing that, right? You're doing it too by doing this. So you get used to that. How many of you have ever played percussion or drums, or have any interest in doing something like that. Okay, this is what your hands are doing. It's actually very active. Strums ought to be active. Okay, so it's the same thing if I took my hand and I. Okay, don't hesitate to do that. If you're trying to train your hands, use this. Use this as an instrument for doing that. I see a lot of younger players effecting these kinds of movements, which helps their performance. You know who's really good at this? If you have an opportunity to take a look at a performer who is, I think, one of the finest performers for ukulele today. His name is James Hill. And while a performer like Jake Shimabukuro is definitely in a class by himself, there are others who I think are much more versatile in their playing. James Hill is a Canadian who does some incredible stuff. He does slides, he does percussion, he he plugs his ukulele in, and he's got all kinds of stuff going on. Remember that song by Michael Jackson called Billie Jean? Billie Jean, that's my love, that song. Well, he does that song by himself and does all of the parts of that song on his ukulele. So if you have a chance to listen to him, he has a YouTube video called James Hill. I think incredible ukulele player, but just look up James Hill, Billie Jean live. Okay, you'll enjoy it immensely. Okay, this guy has some incredible work. Some of his earlier stuff are original songs that he wrote, and you hear his absolute mastery of his instrument. Very, very good. Okay, there's lots of really innovative players out there, and they're becoming more expressive in this way. You know, doing the percussion side. It's not just the fingers on fire like Jake Shimabukuro. Jake Shimabukuro is, I think Jake Shimabukuro is more about this hand, the right hand, the speed with which he plays, and his articulation. It's really quite extraordinary. But somebody like James Hill gives you a much broader palette of techniques that you can begin listening to and hopefully aspiring to as you develop in your playing. It could take you years. I'm probably only a fraction of what any of these guys can do, right? But I've been playing for a long, long time, so those are. It's never been my intention to be a lead ukulele player or to play riffs and stuff. That's not my thing at all. Okay, but we're going to be taking a break for 2 weeks before the third session starts. And because of your feedback, and I really do appreciate the wonderful comments that you have all shared with me and Ted and Susan, we think it's necessary to make sure that we don't ignore folks who are real beginners, because I think most of you who have been attending these sessions, you're not beginners. You're beyond beginners, and you want to learn other techniques and other kind of skills, which this particular session that we're doing will continue to do. Okay, the beginner session is going to start on May 5th. It's going to be really for beginners, and it's going to be more of a method. Here's how you tune your ukulele. These are the notes of the strings. So there's going to be an introduction to the scale notes on the strings, and playing simple songs, like Mary Had a Little Lamb, just so they can get the feel of the feel of the ukulele and the way that we shape our chords. So a little more focused on learning basic chords. It might be, just sharing this with them, okay? With anybody who's going to be doing that. That doesn't mean that you can't, if you don't want to participate just in beginners, you can certainly, continue on this one. Same thing with anybody who's a beginner who is new to it, they can always participate in this. And some folks have said they're a little intimidated. They're intimidated by some of the folks that are in the group, but I hope not. This is about sharing and not just me instructing you. What you tell me, I try to reflect it back to you. What do you need in order for you to be a better player, in order for you to understand what you're playing? That's very important to me as a teacher. I want you to not just play chords because you've memorized them. Why are you playing that chord? How does it support the melody? It's not uncommon for us to do what we would call jamming. How many of you out there get together with others and somebody just starts playing some chords and the rest of you who might be gathered together plays along, and maybe somebody starts picking because you know what the notes are on the chord? How many of you do that? Anybody? Okay, well,
I joined the group, but I don't know how to do that. I just listen.
yeah, and what I'm hoping to share with you, what I'm hoping to be able to share with you is how you can get the most out of these kind of gatherings. It shouldn't be that you're just strumming along. You should be playing. You listen and you sing, right?
They'll put a sheet up so you can play along. But
Okay.
they're all kind of jamming.
Yeah. But usually when it comes to jamming, it might be somebody who's singing and then somebody who's just kind of playing along with stuff. Even if it means playing half notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, while everybody else is doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, right? You can still play along. If you could only figure out how to play one chord for a whole measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is playing along. That's getting involved with a jam session, okay? And then it's inevitable somebody, and it's usually a guy, girls, I'm sorry to say this, it's usually a guy who's gonna say, I can pick that melody. I can pick that melody. While everybody is strumming along, the guy's gonna go, ba, 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 ba. He's gonna do something, okay? You can do that too. You can. And I'll say why I know this. And it's not about, well, sometimes it is about being female, okay? We tend to be a little shy, especially around guys, when, guys just dive in feet first, they want it all. And then we girls tend to be a little more laid back, and then we take our time. But I learned as a kid, if you didn't join in with what the guys were doing, they were going to leave you behind. And I was not about to have that because, I grew up with a lot of cousins, a lot of boy cousins around my age, and there was no way they were going to leave me behind as they were advancing in their playing. It's like, no way, I'm keeping up with these guys, to the point where I could, surpass some of them, okay? So that was very important, but that meant that I had to let go of my inhibitions. I had to let go of that shyness and say, I can do this. I look at each of these strings and I can appreciate each voice that each string has. And I can look at a chord and I can understand each note that is inside that chord. And not just inside the chord, but underneath the chord. Everywhere I can explore it, I did, okay? And when I say play in the dark, I do mean that. Play in the dark. Listen to the chord. Your ukulele really becomes part of you. It's part of you. It is an extension of your voice. And your voice is affected through your hands, right? But it's your brain that's telling you what to do. So that's what I'm hoping that we'll be able to do with the upcoming sessions. There's going to be a little bit of conversation about things like scale, but not too much of that. I want you to be able to hear what it is you're playing and distinguish these notes from one another, okay? The beginners are not going to get any of that. They will not get that. They need to know how to hold their ukuleles and play chords properly and look at what's happening behind. Just the same way that we started out, 2 sessions ago, right? The very beginning. How do you hold it? How do you tune it? Where is this placing? You know, and I will revisit these things as well because it's necessary. There'll be other folks besides the original group that are going to be participating. So if you got friends who are beginners or need to revisit what they're doing, tell them about the beginners class. It's going to start at 4 o'clock and go till just about the time that this session begins at 5. So there's no change in the Beyond Beginners. But now the name of it is going to be Beyond Beginners. Okay, so you guys are all Beyond Beginners, not just beginners. Okay, unless you want to be in the beginners, whatever. It'll work. It all works out. It all works out. Okay, and then we're going to get everybody to recognize those chords that we're playing. Okay. Get everybody to understand what's a minor chord. What does a minor chord sound like? What does a major chord sound like? If I move 1/2 step down, what's it going to do to a chord? What's it going to make it sound like? Those are all very important things to know. When you're playing with others, you'll be able to help one another as well. Okay? You guys have any questions before we head out of here? We're all good? Did somebody raise a hand? Okay. You got a question? Go ahead.
You mentioned a couple of people to listen to. Was one of them Sunny something and then some brothers? How do you spell those?
Okay, Casimiro Brothers. They're from Hawaii.
Okay, spell it.
It's Casimero. Casimiro Brothers. They're also known as Brothers Casimiro, depending on what album. Okay, so Casimiro Brothers Casimiro. They were in a band. It's actually, the band was called the Sunday Manoa. Sunday, the day of the week. Manoa is spelled Manoa. And the band had been around for quite some time. But for me, as I related in our very first session, for me, Hawaiian music was the music of my father. That was old folks music. I didn't want to hear that kind of music when I was a teenager, okay? It was always around me because my dad always played that kind of music. But the only time I ever really listened to Hawaiian music was when we went to a luau, okay? It was a baby's party or somebody got married or some kind of celebration. It was the only time that we ever really heard Hawaiian music, like the real Hawaiian music that people would play in their backyards, that kind of stuff, okay? So by the time I was probably 12, 13 years old, I definitely did not want to listen to any of that old folks kind of music. Then the Sunday Manoa comes along, and they completely transformed what Hawaiian music sounded like to us younger ears. All of a sudden, in my freshman year in high school, everybody wanted to learn ukulele. Everybody wanted to learn how to play Hawaiian music the way that the Sunday Manoa played Hawaiian music. Okay? So you can listen to the old stuff, and then you can listen to the newer stuff. They didn't change anything except how they express themselves. And it's really something because the Casimiro family, the 2 brothers, Robert and Roland, their parents were entertainers. They were Hawaiian entertainers. But the music that Robert and Roland played when they joined the Sunday Manoa was the way that their family played their music when they were together. So this was not the Waikiki Lounge or the Polynesian Review music that they played. Okay, they played the music that they learned as a family. And usually when you have, I think there are 10 kids in the Casimiro family. You can imagine the beautiful harmonies that they had, the instruments that they played together. And nobody heard that music outside of the family until those two brothers joined the Sunday Manoa. And he's already passed away. Their ukulele player his name was Peter Moon. And Peter Moon, he was really my inspiration as a kid. When I heard him play that first time with Sunday Manoa, he's the one I wanted to play like. I wanted to be him. I wanted to be his daughter or his sister or his cousin because I wanted to learn from him how to play. So if you have an opportunity to listen to Sunday Manoa recordings, do that. There are a few Peter Moon videos that are available, but after Sunday Manoa dropped out, he formed his own band, but very distinctive style. But he wasn't just an ukulele player. He just played the ukulele different from everybody else because he was a little older than me at the time, and so he brought a rock and roll kind of facility to his ukulele playing. But he was an incredible slack key guitarist, wonderful guitarist, straight guitarist as well. So you can listen to all these different styles, and I think that might inspire you the way it inspired me as a kid, that you can play beyond just strums, that you can really understand what you're playing and hear it and hear the beauty of the way that these notes and chords connect with what you're singing or what you're hearing, okay? So hopefully it's a little after 6. And if you have any questions or comments, of course, feel free to email me. And make sure you sign your name, okay, so I know who it is you are. Those of you who did email me, I do appreciate your telling me what your name is, so I'm not just trying to figure it out from your email address, okay? All right, anybody else got anything? Any questions? If you got any ideas about, what's coming up, what you'd like to see, let me know. I already have a bit of a plan for you. It's going to be a little more challenging, right? Because I think that's what you want. You want to be challenged, right? No, somebody's saying, no, you can handle it. You guys got it. You got it. Okay? Everybody take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hey, Marianne. I see ya. Marianne used to be my student, so.